Wait, do you ever get disappointed when you're showing someone something for the first time and you really want them to get it? And
No,
they
not
don't?
at all. I think
Yes.
Oh.
Matt knew exactly where I was
Absolutely.
going with that question.
I'm clearly an Eeyore.
I'm probably Rue.
I'm a Christopher Robin with a poo rising.
And then I get in a canoe and I'm like, Clairs don't like canoes.
No, they don't.
I'm afraid of this lake.
That's exactly what it was.
Ow.
It was a beautiful moment in our friendship. I was
literally in the middle of getting hers up and down the
Pathetic.
stairs. Ow. I was like, I'm trying to get my hair done. I'm like,
I don't think that's an accurate representation of my owl.
well, you were in such pain you couldn't see clearly. So,
Trauma.
Thank you for listening to the Last Will podcast. I'm Matt Young. I'm a theater educator and a parent. And ever since I lost my father to cancer, I have been mildly obsessed with death. This is my last will and testament. I'm not sure who said it, but we've often heard that parody is the most sincere form of flattery. Well, today we are going to attack the idea of parody. Tim Huber joins me for a nice deep discussion on the idea of parody. I hope you enjoy. And I hit the R. The R is the record button, as it simply states on the keyboard. It makes sense, right? That R is record? Yes. R is record in GarageBand, but then I have to hit Command T to cut. That doesn't make sense. In Final Cut, I have to hit Command B for blade. So that makes more sense because they used to use blades when they would cut actual film.
So what is Command C in
Copy.
copy?
Yeah.
That's why it can't be Command C.
Yep. And then Command B is paste.
It's
I
paste.
do a Command C, Command V all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always doing that one. Can we hear? I don't know. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We have a familiar voice in town here.
I don't know. It's familiar. Only been around once.
Well, it's familiar to me.
Okay.
So that's why it makes me feel safe.
Okay, good.
Remember, you saved my life once. And then I died in your arms.
And then you died in my arms.
Yeah.
It was very sad. We made people cry.
We did. I was determined to make that death uncomfortable
Yes.
for people.
And it was.
Yeah, if these microphones weren't running, I would probably do a lot of complaining about the rehearsal process of that particular scene and how people with less lines may have dominated by not knowing their lines. Anyways, Tim's here. Hi, Tim.
Hello. It's good to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. I figured, I gave you a bunch of topics that we could go through, and we're like, yeah, I could do that, and that could be really depressing, and then we could maybe spiral into the abyss in this one. But the truth of the matter is, I have always known you as a lover of parody.
Oh, yes.
So I thought,
Yeah.
let's put parody on that list and see how it goes. And you're the guy to talk to when it comes to parody.
Well, okay.
In my life.
In your
In my
life.
life. In my
Okay,
life.
okay.
Remember, people.
Yes, no.
We do not bring on experts.
No.
Although I am an expert on how not to grieve or how to make all the mistakes in grieving, I think I have a good 10,000 hours of making mistakes over the last 25 years.
yeah.
So you want to get right to it? We'll go right to the definition.
Yeah.
Jump right in just so it's clear for everybody.
Yes. Yeah. In particular, parody versus satire.
Well, I have that too, just in case, because I know.
Because people get those confused.
Yes, absolutely. They're very close. Parody is a humorous or satirical imitation of a serious work, genre, or style. It often exaggerates or distorts characteristics featured to create a comic or critical effect. Parodies are typically used to comment on or criticize the original subject, highlighting its flaws and absurdities through playful mimicry.
That's interesting. I don't know that I agree with that definition.
Okay. Let's pick it apart.
I think, well, yeah, actually, that may not be true. It's pretty negative. Yeah,
It's like attacking. They're like parody. We're
like
using
we're
as a foil.
We're mocking mocking and commenting on the absurdity of the original.
Right, which often I've always thought of it as a celebration. Like you think of Weird Al. Weird Al's parodies are a celebration of the originals. They're not.
Yes.
He's not taking a piss out of people.
Right.
Fucked up this time, AI.
Mel Brooks's parodies are not. Young Frankenstein. He didn't write it, but it's an homage. It's an homage to those films.
Yeah.
And High Anxiety, like, is a love letter to
Hitchcock. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's not. I mean, look, it can be used as a tool.
Yes.
Anytime, like the Daily Show. Is the Daily Show considered parody, or is it satire? Let's do parody satire. Okay, parody and satire are related concepts, but they differ in purpose and scope. Parody, a humorous exaggeration, imitation, or a specific work, style, or genre.
Right.
The purpose is primarily to entertain and amuse by mimicking and exaggerating recognizable features of the original. Focus is usually the target of a particular work, artist, or genre. Tone often playful, humorous, or lighthearted. Example of parody is a famous movie scene or song that mimics its style but adds humorous twists. All right, that's silly. Satire, definition, a literary or artistic technique that uses humor, irony, or exaggeration to criticize or expose flaws in society and individuals or institutions. So right there, like in asking for the definition of parody, it gave us the definition of satire, really.
Yes.
That's what that whole first thing was about. When we compared the two, we got much clearer. Purpose is to provoke thought, raise awareness, or encourage change by highlighting issues or shortcomings. Focus can target broader societal, political, or cultural issues rather than just a specific work. Can be humorous, but often carries a serious or critical edge. Yeah, this AI, you fucked up. You fucked up. You just didn't get it right this time. So the Daily Show is satire.
Oh, absolutely.
We're using that to
I don't
make fun
of the current state of things.
Yes. And parody is
Melania's appearances, Laura Benanti's appearances as Melania, is satire done through parody.
Yes. Yeah.
But so love it for the parody, and actually in this case for the satire as well. But but they don't necessarily have to go hand in hand.
No, but they often do.
They often do.
Probably satire, not so much when it comes to like a base of parody, but you will use parody in order to heighten your satire.
Yes.
Do you remember the first like satire you saw?
For satire?
Yeah, like the first time you were like introduced to the concept. I think for me, I think it had to have been the Holy Grail. I think Monty Python and the Holy Grail was the first time that I think
satire or parody?
I thought parody. No, you think
right?
that's
You
satire?
No. You just asked me when the first time I was introduced to satire, and then you said Holy Grail.
Tim,
and
I'm drunk.
You're
drunk.
You're confusing me.
I'm sorry.
I thought I understood what parody was, but I guess I don't.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
We should not be driving.
So
we should not be driving.
It's
parody.
Monday. It's Monday. That's the other reason I thought parody was a good topic. Because like guilt, that's not where I need to go on a Monday night.
That's true. Imagine if we did guilt on a Monday.
Yeah.
It's not a Monday topic. Thank you for making that clear. We will not do guilt on a Monday. We were to focus on parody.
Yeah, parody. Carol Burnett.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely
Carol
right.
Burnett was the first time that I, her movie parodies.
Yes. Obviously, Gone with the Wind.
Well, yeah, Went with the Wind.
Went with the Wind.
Went with the Wind in the curtain, curtain dress. Yeah, I actually wanted, when I was in middle school, I wanted our church youth group to do that.
Oh.
And I was trying to transcribe it. I was watching it on TV, and I was trying to transcribe the lines.
Right, and it's not like we were recording a lot of things back there. You had to do it like on the fly.
Yeah. We needless to say, it didn't happen.
No.
But I had grandiose ideas.
She was just in general, such a huge influence on my sense of humor.
Yeah.
Growing up.
All of her parodies, though, came from a place of love and adoration.
Yes.
Not from a mocking standpoint.
No, not
Right.
at all.
She found the humor in sort of memorializing what she loved, and that's the kind of parody that I am particularly fond of.
I think that's probably an angle in which she came at most of her work, for that show. She was very much...
yeah. She did what she loved
Yeah,
with people
yeah.
that she loved to do it with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
Tim Conway was everything to me
Right.
growing up.
yeah.
One of my favorite movies, and my sister eventually bought me the Blu-ray, so I have the Blu-ray of this Disney movie starring Don Knotts and
Apple Dumpling Gang.
it's not.
Oh.
It's not. It's a little known, and I may have talked about it on here. But my favorite movie growing up with Tim Conway and Don Knotts was a movie called The Private Eyes.
Oh, okay.
The
I don't
Private
think I've ever
Eyes
seen it.
Was, oh my goodness, it was my favorite. They played two like bumbling Scotland Yard detectives.
Okay.
Tim Conway was an inventor. He built this time gun so that the gun would go off every hour. That was the kind of ridiculousness. They came to this big estate to try to figure out. I'm sure it was, if you think about it, it was a parody of it feels like a parody of something, like a scary movie, almost like whatever the premise for the Scooby-Doo episodes were, where
Right.
we think there's some supernatural thing, but it's really
It's
a human
really
being
human.
behind it.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a mystery, and after everybody was killed, there was a note, and that note would have beautiful rhymes all the way up until the end, where it was such a misrhyme, and that was the joke.
Oh, okay.
And I just loved it.
All right.
That spoke
Now-
to me.
now I have to watch it.
Yeah, oh, you do.
I'll have to
I don't
watch
know
it.
if it holds up.
No, of course
I'll
not.
let you borrow the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
'Cause
I want to
really,
see it in
like-
the best quality possible.
Yes, there was this folk story through the whole thing where Tim Conway is trying to convince Don Knotts that this beast exists called the Wookalar, and so they're constantly thinking that all of this stuff could come from the Wookalar, and that's most beautiful. I loved it. I loved it. It was everything. That and The Cat from Outer Space, but that's not a
Cat
parody
from
of
Outer
anything.
Space, no.
So Carol Burnett, what?
Carol Burnett.
Any other specifics other than the Wind with the Wind? What was it?
Oh, went with the wind. Well,
Went with the Wind.
her Nora Desmond.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I just saw Sunset.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so that came to mind very quickly.
Oh my God! I totally forgot about. I don't think I knew when I was watching that back in the day that
No.
was a parody of
No.
Of anything.
Yeah.
Like I don't just
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought it was. Just a crazy actress.
I'm trying to think of the first time I saw Sunset Boulevard, the movie.
The movie, right? I don't think I've ever seen the movie. I've seen the musical twice, but I don't, and not this new one, but I've seen the musical, but I haven't seen the movie.
But there's this moment of recognition where you realize, or where I realized, that's what she was doing, right? So it was
Right.
funny on its own. It's even more funny when you consider it in the context of what it's
Right.
parodying.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
So I mean, most of the movie spoofs I loved. Yeah, it was on in syndication.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
Yep.
You get home from school, do
Yeah.
your homework, and at 5 o'clock you turn the TV on and watch Carol Burnett and Friends.
Yeah.
And now you can go on YouTube and you can watch like entire episodes.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
I did that for a while.
Yeah.
Just because there's such joy in watching Tim Conway break up Harvey Korman.
Yeah. He was not always my favorite,
Tim?
Tim Conway.
No, because he was, I would imagine, and I didn't get this as a kid, but a selfish performer. He was a little greedy out there. I try to
Yes.
teach kids about give and take.
Yeah.
And Tim Conway was a little bit of take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. I didn't think of it through that lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want to say about Vicki Lawrence, she was give and take.
Yeah.
Even though Mama was a strong character
Right.
in all of the other stuff,
Well,
she's very, very give and take.
Carol.
Yeah, you're friends.
I'm from,
Yeah,
but she always talked about it as a rep company,
Right.
right, and that idea that you're working together, and I think that's the goal of a company like that, right?
Yeah,
That sometimes you're in the front, sometimes you're in the back, sometimes you're sweeping the floors, and you're doing whatever needs to be done to put each other in the best light and deliver the best.
She was
things.
very good at that,
Yeah.
considering she was the leader.
Oh yeah,
Like she liked to make other people funny.
yeah.
Great
So-
comic chops. Huge influence on me.
Yeah.
Even in a way that I didn't understand. But, as a little kid, Tim Conway just,
Oh yeah.
when it's not parody, but when he puts the Novocaine in his hand, he stabs himself in the hand with the Novocaine.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not. No, it
Classic.
isn't parody. But so all
no,
right,
no, no. We were Carol
drifting.
Burnetting, so that's totally reasonable. That's the way this podcast works. Sometimes, we take a
Sometimes,
tangent.
yeah. I've listened to more than one episode, so I'm familiar.
In the multiverse the other day, we went into doppelgangers, and I'm like, is that even part of this thing? No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, another huge influence on me. It wasn't until I was older that I started to get high anxiety and the obvious brilliance of a young Frankenstein. For me, I grew up, Mel Brooks was History of the World.
Oh, okay.
That was the thing that we would quote. I don't know why we watched it so young. It's totally and completely inappropriate.
Oh, yeah.
in every
How
way.
young?
Very
I saw it in
young.
high school.
Before 10.
Oh.
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah. It's been History of the World Part 1 has been part of my life as far as I can remember. I just didn't get high anxiety as a kid because I hadn't watched a lot of.
No, I loved High Anxiety.
I didn't watch a lot of Hitchcock at that point. And then when it came to like my age, he did Spaceballs and Men in Tights, and that just, to me, Spaceballs, being a huge Star Wars fan, Spaceballs loses it halfway through.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think when he comes out as Yogurt, the parody just like disappears. And
Disappears.
the movie doesn't get great. It's got a lot of gags in it. It's got a lot of
it's
jokes and
funny
stuff like that.
Jokes and gags.
Yeah.
Like that play we were talking about, the one that's
Yes.
it's very funny and it's not very good.
Right. But sometimes you just need the
Sometimes you need the very funny.
Yeah.
And Spaceballs, I'm glad I watched it. It's not. I'll go back and watch Young Frankenstein or High Anxiety.
Yes. If Young Frankenstein is on, I will watch it. I won't. If Spaceballs is on, I never showed my kids Spaceballs.
Right.
The boys never watched
Yeah,
Spaceballs. And they probably would get that more than anything else.
Yeah. I did make my kids watch Young Frankenstein.
To me, it's the best.
Yeah.
And then there's a caveat for me with Young Frankenstein. And it's definitely a tangent. So let's just talk about the good of Young Frankenstein
Okay.
for now. Young Frankenstein is not just Mel Brooks, but it's Gene Wilder putting on a clinic in terms of what parody is.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not as funny if he doesn't take it as seriously. If the stakes aren't as high for him,
Right.
as they are, and he was a master at doing that.
He wasn't winking at the audience
No.
Well, if you have to do that, that's not good parody.
And look, he is very good at it. Like, you look at the producers, Mel Brooks' producers, and he's playing a caricature of a human, and he's grounding it, and it's working, and I'm loving the gags and all of that stuff. But it's not like Young Frankenstein, where the stakes of a Frankenstein movie are there for him in every way.
Right.
And then the beauty of it is that the brain is
abnormal.
yes.
Yeah.
So he accomplishes his goal, but the goal still turns. Well, I guess it does turn in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein too, but in a much different way.
Yeah.
But I think that's the best of his
Of
parody.
his, I would agree. But that was one that leapt to mind
Yeah.
for me when, and then for me, the whole Forbidden Broadway repertoire.
Okay.
again, made my kids, by virtue of the fact that I played a lot of it.
Yeah, all the time. It's a good way to influence
so
your kids
my
without
daughter's
working too hard.
30, and she's every now and then she'll go, I heard this song the other day, and I realized I knew it, and I knew it because I knew the melody from Forbidden Broadway.
Right.
So
it's really, really well done, and the skill in which those performers. Well, explain if people don't understand what Forbidden Broadway is.
It's parody of what's happening in the theater, typically with songs where the lyrics are rewritten.
And so
the melodies are recognizable,
right?
And
it's a stage. It's a stage
show is performed with great skill.
Yes, I mean that's the thing that's always been amazing to me is not only are these people great singers, but they can do an impression of somebody singing so specific.
Yes,
that the parody works.
Yeah,
so well.
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple times. And they had like how many they would put out?
Oh, I don't know, like
every
13.
year almost, right?
Yeah, it was for a while, starting in the 80s, and then they went through. Yeah, not every year, but there are like 15 or 16 different cast albums
for sure.
So, Spamilton was a high point. So my daughter was out from college, and we went and saw Spamilton with her, and it's all of the songs from Hamilton, and then Christine Petty coming out dressed like the old woman from Sweeney Todd, singing the old woman song, but it's about trying to get tickets,
right,
and so all the lyrics are rewritten, but you have this cast of 4 people who are doing all of the parts. Yeah. They're playing all the different parts. They're switching from character to character. They're doing all of the choreography. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's I mean the singing is so spot on. They're not like the parody doesn't come from them like goofing on the quality of the voice. The quality of the voice is not the joke. The lyrics are the joke.
And their ability to mimic the quality of the voice.
And the fact that they're also playing 8 million characters. Right. It's so impressive.
You know, there are a couple of recurring ones. They have like Annie when she's 30. I'm 30 years old tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I haven't worked since I played Annie when I was 10.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
Yeah. And but on stage, the adult in an Annie wig, the red Annie dress with a cigarette.
It's funny.
Singing. It's, yeah.
You can't beat that. My first introduction, oh my goodness. My first introduction to musical parody was Weird Al.
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah.
Because my love for the musical, I think, came a little bit later. I mean, I was introduced to like Barnum and Peter Pan, and we saw Annie, and my parents took me to the theater, but that wasn't the music that I was listening to until like high school and stuff like that. So it was Weird Al. Yeah. You know, I just loved things like Eat It, and I loved the polkas that he was doing, and my favorite, Jurassic Park to the theme of MacArthur Park. You know, if I can remember any of the lyrics, it's frightening in the dark. The dinosaurs are running wild. Someone turned the gate off in the rain instead of someone left the cake out in the rain. Yeah. But it's like this beautiful song.
Yeah.
And it's all about Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So he did plenty of Star Wars songs for me. You know, there's one about Anakin to American Pie, Yoda to Lola.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eat It was one of the first things. Like a Surgeon was huge for me, to Like a Virgin. And you know, growing up, like MTV actually showed videos. I know I sound like an old person saying that, but like there were videos.
I remember the day.
And I would watch if they like advertise, oh, you're going to get a Weird Al video, you
Right.
would get that one little thing in between a bunch of music that I didn't really like, just waiting for what was bad? Oh, I'm Fat. Like he did a huge video to
Yes.
Michael Jackson's "I'm Bad" called "I'm Fat."
I'm fat.
Yeah.
But yes, and again, I would bet that he did that because he loved what he was hearing,
absolutely.
not because
And loved music, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and loved genre. It definitely doesn't seem like he's taking a piss out of anybody.
and then she has parody elements, but Anna Russell, who was a concert artist, she was a woman, got her degree in vocal performance and realized that she was never going to make a living as a legitimate artist.
Right.
And so she started doing parody. There are recording. You can find stuff from her on YouTube. And,
Right.
But she has one where she talks about how to write a Gilbert and Sullivan opera, where
Okay.
she goes through and she sings all of the different songs that you would hear in a Gilbert and Sullivan opera. So
Right.
you need to have the sweet young maiden, you need to have the old man who sings songs really fast, the patter songs, and then you have to have the quartet. And anyway, she does all of those together again because she loves it.
Like you have to understand the genre. You know,
Yes.
there's always this thing about like you can't break the rules until you understand the rules. I mean, it's really true.
Yeah.
You can't do a parody of a Gilbert and Sullivan unless you know the mechanics of how a Gilbert and Sullivan work.
Right.
You know, you can't make like, it may not be your taste, but like a scary movie if you don't understand what is the structure
Right,
of a
right.
horror film and the jump scare and how all of that
Yeah.
works in order to make that.
Yeah. Naked Gun and the
Yep.
cop show,
Yep.
right?
And take it seriously. It's the
Yes.
whole Young Frankenstein thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he took it seriously, and so the stakes felt real, even though there was absurdity happening around.
Yes.
The other one that I forgot that was a really early influence on me, in terms of understanding parody, was Mad Magazine.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know,
Yeah.
I what a joy it was to get that magazine. I don't know that my parents ever denied me it, but like I just didn't.
Yeah, I would see it at a friend's house. We didn't have Mad in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the parodies were
Spot on.
yeah, and every issue had at least one big parody that they were poking fun at.
Yeah.
It was just part of like what I understood as humor. Like I don't think as a young kid I was playing with puns. I don't think there
No.
were puns around my house. I was getting the Carol Burnett. I was getting the Monty Python. I was getting parody more than anything. Like it's almost like the first form of humor that comes into your life. Oh, that and people falling on, you know,
And people falling down on banana peels.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
that's a really good point.
You do get some slapstick. I was never a big Stooges fan,
Yeah.
but I did love like Tom and Jerry,
yeah.
like that type of
Yeah.
slapstick and stuff. But parody was the more sophisticated version of what I first started to understand as humor.
What's opera, Doc?
Yes. Yeah.
Just brilliant parody. Taking the ring cycle. Oh, by the way, Anna Russell also does a 21-minute recap of the ring cycle.
Yeah.
That is pee your pants funny.
Nice.
But What's Opera, Doc, right, just captured all the motifs. It captured the all of the form and all of the style
Yeah.
of what it was parodying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So form and style, as opposed to using it as a tool to mock somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. And even when it's mocking, right, it's not mocking from a place of
No, it's like
mocking from a place of affection.
right, like Friends do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you bust balls, it's not because I don't tease Grady about going and buying sneakers from Salvation Army. Like every time we do a show, I'm like, I think this character really needs a Salvation Army pair of shoes. Like I know it because he thinks that's disgusting, and But I'm not really making fun of the fact that he doesn't want to go get other people's shoes.
No, it's a
look, I love you.
There was an article recently that talked about the fact that if you're hard on each other in that way, that's an indication of the depth of your friendship.
I think so. Absolutely. Before we move too far past Bugs Bunny, though.
Okay.
I saw this thing, it had to be months ago, that was if the Fellowship just gave the One Ring to Bugs Bunny, he would have been able to just march into Mordor. and I just thought about it, and it feels like one of the truest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like Bugs Bunny would not have been deterred in any way by anybody to have gotten that ring into the depths of Mount Doom. He just, I don't know, clever? I don't know. He just...
able to respond to whatever was thrown at him.
Yes.
And turn it around.
That Bugs. So yeah, I just think I knew parody before I knew parody. Like it was just a part of what I found very, very funny. And then as I got older, my taste matured a little bit, and I started to watch like the Kids in the Hall and Saturday Night Live, and watching sketch comedy, and seeing a different type of humor. I started to understand the difference between like identifying with a joke because there was something human about it, and recognizing a joke because you recognize who the impersonation or the parody was, and both were as satisfying to me.
Yeah,
at the time, for sure.
I was. Would you? Do you not think they would be as satisfying for you now? I would say I would find satisfaction in either.
I don't know. Like when I think about what makes me laugh, it usually has to come from story now.
Okay.
Like the sketch stuff that I watch. I mean, I there's stuff that I enjoy, like what is it? Tim Robinson, his craziness on Netflix. I think you should something. I mean, it's so far out there that I love the fact that there's no setup and punchline. Like I don't want that in my sketch right now.
Okay, all right.
And then the other stuff that I find funny, like unpopular opinion, but like I don't like things like the Hangover movies. Like that doesn't satisfy my humor. What I want in humor. What I want is something like a Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Where I want a world that's a little obscure that we take seriously, that has a greater metaphor. And again, here's the parody thing. The stakes are serious for each character, even though there's absurdity going on around it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I couldn't really answer that. I haven't seen, I don't think, great parody in a while.
Yeah.
Although the guy who does the president on Saturday Night Live is really
I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in a while, but
like his impression is the best impression that I've seen of him, and he has such a casual understanding of the rhythms of his voice. But I'd say that was satire because they're definitely using
they're using it in a satirical
to skew.
Yeah. And then of course Christopher Guest.
Yes.
From there are actually sort of multiple levels of parody happening.
Well, it's almost like advanced parody.
Yeah, with so
sort of a Spinal Tap, right?
Right.
That's like advanced parody of a rock documentary that we think we've seen, but we may not know.
Right.
And then you're parodying
the hair
musicians,
band or the band, and the musicians.
The self-importance of a musician,
right? Yeah, and Guffman.
Yes, it's our world. It's touching our world of local theater.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful. I felt very seen when that movie came out. There's also something knowing that it's improvised that makes it feel like no other type of parody, I guess, that fake documentary style.
Yeah.
But yeah, Guffman is my favorite. I know people like Best in Show, and I like Best in Show, but Guffman is my favorite.
Best in Show, I would say, is still the fake documentary, but it's less. It doesn't parody the dog show as much.
No, and it's the people.
It's the
parody
of the people.
Yeah, because we don't know that much about the ins and outs of the dog show.
Of the dog show. Yeah.
But he's definitely skewing people that we all feel like we know. I mean, I guess he's probably doing that in Guffman as well. Like, we know these people even though it's so specific to community theater and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched The Mighty Wind all the way through. I don't think I watched the one about the Oscars.
For Your Consideration.
Yeah,
I don't think I finished For Your Consideration. I did watch Mighty Wind all the way through.
Yeah, which another what seems like a great parody of folk music and the folk sound,
the sound of the people who were doing it.
Culture.
And the feeling. So
he was great, but it felt like advanced parody. So we did movies. We talked about Spaceballs. We talked about The Naked Gun. We touched on Scary Movie, that type of stuff. TV shows, obviously, the Saturday Night Live. Mad TV was very good at the parody, but that was like their thing. They were taking the magazine and putting it
on TV
in front. And those, I mean, I always thought they were underrated, but those performers, their impressions, their ability to do certain characters, to make these parodies work and to do a variety was forbidden Broadway level.
Right.
For sure.
Right. Yeah.
Chappelle Show's on this list, but I would say he's more satire than anything. I wouldn't say he was. Well, he probably parodied some things, but it's not coming to mind. Key and Peele, I would say they did some parodies on it that were a lot of fun. Music, we talked about Weird Al. We talked about Forbidden Broadway. Literature, we talked about Mad Magazine, but the Onion.
Oh yeah,
was probably not parody as much as it is satire.
Yeah, but it's using parody to deliver satire.
Yeah, for sure.
The like their morning show, right? They're parodying the chipper, happy couple. Who's on TV and talking about really horrible things, but with a big smile on their face.
Did you ever watch The Early Show?
The Early Show.
Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube. Why can't I think of his name right now?
Because you're getting old.
It's so old because I love this guy, and for some reason his name is Ben Schwartz. Oh my goodness, Ben Schwartz and Lauren Lapkus do one of these morning shows. Okay, and they're just perfect at it. And then at the end of the first episode, Ben Schwartz asks his girlfriend to marry him, and she turns him down.
Okay.
And so the other 8 episodes are him dealing with it, and they have great like guests.
Yeah.
Like Pedro Pascal is on one episode, and Reggie. Again, names. The basketball player Reggie.
I'm not going to be any help there.
No, I know you weren't. I see him in my head, but like I can't remember last names for whatever reason. But it's I highly recommend The Early Show because it's so beautifully uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I do like uncomfortable humor. That's like at the top of my list. I like the uncomfortableness.
I'm not fond of that.
I will hold a silence on stage.
Oh well, yeah, I know. Yeah. I've been on the receiving end. I've been on the receiving end of that. That level of discomfort, I'm okay with.
Because we're doing it to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, this has nothing to do with parody, but well, I guess it does a little bit.
We're allowed tangents.
Are we?
Yeah.
So, I despised comedy that was done at the expense of someone else when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
So there was a man that went to our church, Mr. Stobie, and Mr. Stobie wore a toupee, and I did not know this. Mr. Stobie also was kind of a flirt, and used to rib people, and so we were at family camp, and Mr. Stobie was in the lake swimming, and he like came up behind somebody and tickled them or something, and
So inappropriate.
and and turned her. And she was mad. She turned around and she pulled his hair off.
Wow.
And everybody laughed, including Mr. Stobie.
Right, he had to. He didn't. Yeah.
But apparently, I was so upset. I mean, I remember the images, but I don't remember this part. But my parents have told me that I was so upset they had to remove me from the situation.
Wow.
We had to go back to the lodge because I was so upset. And now I understand it as a grown up. But
Yeah, he definitely had some. He had some things coming, but like just the idea of everybody turning on this one person really like was upsetting to you. I get that.
Yeah,
I totally get that. What is like in the end? What is the target of your joke?
Right.
And if the target is you punching down or somebody who's vulnerable or something like that, I'm not interested in that joke.
Right.
Right. It's one thing like you're doing a roast and that's the setup for how we're going about it.
Yes.
But I can't imagine that you're like, oh, the roast of somebody comes on.
This
I gotta
not
go home and watch
no.
it.
I can find a roast amusing, but yeah,
Yeah, you're not
I'm
searching
not.
it out.
No, I am not. If I happen to see it. So, Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, that's one of a beautiful reason of why I love that movie is because again, it takes itself seriously and it's about people taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
It's working on many different levels. It's also just a great okay. So Young Frankenstein, Galaxy Quest, they're great movies, whether they were parodies or not. The stories are great. The way things unfold are great. Their surprises, their twists and turns. They're just great movies.
Yes.
They also happen to be parodies.
Right. Yeah. So we haven't talked about that, but not all parody is good.
True.
And not all parody is funny just because it's a parody. So parody is just it's taking a style and a form, but then delivering something of quality.
Yeah, you have to still hit the story. Like the story has to be interesting. You have to have compelling characters. You can't just. I think if you just rely on the idea of parody, which feels like the second half of Spaceballs to me.
Okay.
Yogurt comes on and goes merchandising, and then it's a joke, but like the whole thing is derailed for this joke, and then all of a sudden we're not really interested in the character at all. All of the great stuff that he did. This is not a parody, but since we're talking about Mel Brooks here, did you ever see To Be or Not to Be?
I love that movie.
It's one of my favorites. Like
That's
grew up.
Such a good movie.
I grew up with that. First time I probably really saw Anne Bancroft. She was a comedian to me. I didn't realize that she was such a serious actress because she was in this movie. Charles Durning in that movie would make my father giggle in a way that I don't remember him giggling. When he's the chocolate-covered nougat and he's trying to sit on a desk, my father would laugh so hard at this guy. It just has everything. It's not a parody. It's just a remake of.
It's a remake.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
But that's to me Mel Brooks at his funniest.
Yeah, but he's delivering the humor, but he's delivering a compelling story. And characters that you care about.
Yeah.
And
they're cartoony too.
Yeah.
He's getting mad. He's doing an awful Hamlet, and he's getting mad at Tim Matheson. Excuse me, pardon me, pardon me. My sister and I used to do that all the time. It was one of those, that and Real Genius were huge quotable movies for us. But History of the World, and To Be or Not to Be.
Okay.
And it's got a great gag at the beginning. The rest of this movie will not be in Polish anymore. It will be in English from now on.
Yeah.
So as we were talking about, as I was bashing Mel and how I think the second half of Spaceballs stinks, I will give him his props.
Yeah. No. His
and And Blazing Saddles, we didn't even talk about Blazing Saddles.
No. I didn't see Blazing Saddles until a few years ago.
Okay, I can understand that. But huge parody.
Yeah.
Of so many different things, although probably satire too.
Some satire, yeah, absolutely. The whiteness of and of
the way
of
they
the
treat
movies
people of
and
colors.
The way,
Yeah. And still full of gags and stuff like that. But like, if you don't care about those two characters at the core of it, at the core of Blazing Saddles, it doesn't work.
Right.
You know, we have to want those guys to do well.
Yes,
for sure.
It's why some of those. It's why, like Scary Movie, is funny, but it's not a movie that I go back and watch over and over again.
Right. I don't think I've seen. I think there's 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, I've seen.
Maybe the first one I watched,
yeah,
and maybe a gag here, on the internet or something like that. But I haven't watched that.
Right. I think that's the difference between a really good parody. You can parody, but miss the point of a story of finding compelling situations.
Yeah.
that make sense. There's absurdity in it, but it makes sense in the end.
Speaking of the weigh-ins, it reminds me of Robert Townsend, who I was a huge fan of growing up. Robert Townsend did a movie called Hollywood Shuffle, and it was about a young black man trying to figure out his way in Hollywood, and within it, he parodied at least 10 different movies during it.
Right.
He would like fantasize, or something would come up, and so we would see all of his different like sketches within this movie. But at the core of it, we were still rooting for this guy who was trying to get an acting gig.
Right.
And so it really, really worked. Think of other things like that.
I was in a play, an original play.
Okay.
It was a musical.
Your face tells me that this is a reluctant story.
The second act was the dreams of an author who had a burrito before he went to write a book about Christmas.
Okay.
And so it was all his crazy dreams, and they were
from the burrito. Brought on by
the
food.
Brought on by the burrito. And the fact that he was obsessed with trying to understand what was he going to write about for this children's book for Christmas.
Right.
And there was a Star Trek Christmas, and there was a it's not really parody, but it was.
There was a formula there.
It was it was a form. Yeah, there was the costume superheroes and the villain and yeah.
Well, I mean, what is that when you take the structure of something and you dip it in different, like in improv, we would call that film and theater styles, or we would call it genres.
I mean, if it's form and style, then it's. I think that's a safe definition for parody.
Right.
The parody is taking finding humor by mimicking the form and style of another work.
Right. But if you're like doing you're doing like a Christmas story, but you're doing it as a Chekhov play, or you're doing it as a Mamet play.
Oh, right.
You're doing it as
I don't know what you would
call
the
Star Trek. Star Trek
episode.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Star Trek play. I was gonna say, what if you were doing a Christmas story and you were doing it like a Dr. Seuss thing? And I'm like, oh yeah, there is one. It's Dr. Seuss Christmas thing. It's called The Grinch.
Yeah.
Interesting. I look. I am so glad we decided to do this, because I hadn't thought about those early influences on how my sense of humor was shaped. Like, sense of humor is a really important thing to me. Being funny is a really important thing to me. Mm-hmm. Like, when people compliment me, if they say that I'm funny, I could live off that for a while. I want to be thought of as a funny person. I want to be someone who people rely on to be funny in life and on stage and all of that stuff, and have respect to know that I know a process in which we can discover funny and things like that. But I don't often, and I should probably more often than not, think about the origins of how it came to be in my life.
Right.
We didn't really talk about Monty Python, but they did do a lot. Like, Life of Brian's my favorite, but it's got a lot of satire over parody, right? Because what is it parodying? Is parodying the Bible?
Yeah. It's parodying the life of Jesus. It was very divisive in the community I grew up in.
New Testament stuff. So
Yeah.
I was with the Old Testament people, so we didn't care.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So, and if you watch it, it makes a clear delineation that this is not Jesus. This is the life of Brian.
Right.
And
we saw Jesus go down the river.
Yeah.
Like, or did we see? No, that was Moses. Moses went down the river. My bad.
Yeah.
Again, I'm Old Testament.
That's okay. It's all right. But yeah. So I guess it's parody of there's parody elements of a biblical film.
The greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
Do we think? I don't know that I ever watched that. Again, the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
Charlton Heston, the Jew of all Jews.
Yes. Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur.
Yes, we used to for Passover. It used to be Ten Commandments was on TV, and after everybody ate, everybody would watch the Ten Commandments.
Right.
And then Schindler's List came out, and then we watched Schindler's List every year.
Okay.
And it was a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's so good, though. Like, I'm sorry. You can say whatever you want about Spielberg. I don't know who would talk bad really about him, but like the movie Schindler's List is such a good, powerful movie with amazing performances.
Yeah.
The fact that I can root for Ray Fiennes in anything after having watched that performance.
Yeah.
Not parody. It's not parody.
No, it's not parody. Not parody. And the pod race in episode 1 is not parody.
No.
It's taking
it's like an homage to
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But not parody because it's not going for the absurdity and the humor.
No, I mean they're using elements of humor, but that's definitely a homage, whatever that word actually means.
Yeah,
it's a tribute.
It's a tribute.
Yeah,
right. It's
grand,
modeled on
yeah
this epic that influenced him
for sure. I mean, I know that now we're getting off track, but it's okay. That Lawrence of Arabia was a huge influence on Spielberg. I finally watched it maybe 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched a lot of old movies during COVID. I was like, I'm just going to go on a classic. Because I had seen Chinatown before, but I was like, I'm going to watch Chinatown again because I haven't seen it in a while.
Right.
And just devastatingly good. And so I was like, I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia. I'm going to watch Lawrence of Arabia. I can say very clearly. They knew how to use a soundtrack. Like a score to a movie.
Yeah.
The score was as good as any score today. It was as grand a movie as I'd ever seen, for sure. The landscapes, they knew how to use the camera to show the beauty of this world.
Yes.
Peter O'Toole chewed on a lot of the scenery in a way that he could have been in my favorite year. You know, it could have been that.
That was Peter O'Toole in My Favorite Year.
No, I know, but
I'm
it could have been
kidding.
that. Yeah, it could have been that
no.
version of
of
him for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody else though, like Omar Sharif and Alec Guinness, they were all fucking great.
Yeah.
Like they all were really acting.
So you have you ever seen it on the big screen?
No, I just hear. I mean, it's a pretty big screen, but
well, no.
not in
Yeah.
the
So
theater.
I was lucky enough
Yeah.
to be living in Seattle. It played at the Cinerama,
Okay.
which is one of the only remaining actual Cinerama theaters left. Now Paul Allen bought it and then restored it, and then he died.
Okay.
And so it was a money loser. So the Seattle Film Festival bought it to save it, so it's not going anywhere. But like fifth row, with the
You're in
giant curved screen
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
massive speakers. It was the newly restored. This is a complete tangent, but it's when I first got interested in that whole idea of film restoration.
Oh,
and,
okay.
and recovery, because Lawrence of Arabia was cut pretty substantially after its initial release.
Yeah.
And so Robert Harris was involved in finding those pieces and bringing back together the actual
Oh, nice.
original
Yeah.
cut. Ten Commandments. There's a podcast I listen to called Perf Damage.
Okay.
It's a couple from L.A. She works at Paramount in their film restoration.
Nice.
And so they talk about that. So they were talking about the restoration of Ten Commandments. And they do the restoration to put it so that then they can scan it and put it in 4K and actually
Did they cut out plagues?
cut out plagues.
Yeah. There weren't the 10 plagues. There was
The four.
the four plagues that will be sent
No.
upon you.
But they're doing things like where they can. They're trying to find the original elements
Yeah.
that were like optically printed with bad matte lines.
Yeah.
And then being able to scan them digitally and then
Fix it.
digitally put them together with the original images, but just with the matte lines removed.
Wow.
Right. So that it looks as good or better than
The original stuff.
Yeah. More like the filmmaker's intention.
That's
But,
crazy. I mean, not crazy. What a beautiful thing to use technology to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tim,
this was fun.
Yeah,
This
was
was fun.
I enjoyed it.
I always like an episode like this that kind of goes back. We share like our experiences about things. Parody is again, like I'm a little like, I shouldn't be surprised, but a little surprised about how I didn't realize what foundational comedy it was for me.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, dead men don't wear plaid.
Yes. Like I didn't get it
Right.
for so long, and then and I can't tell you, I had to have been in my 20s when I realized that it was only him in the movie. And
okay.
the other things were from other movies.
Okay.
That they were put together. I don't think I knew that for the first, decade of me understanding and watching that movie.
Okay. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good fun movie. Did Steve Martin have any other parodies? I mean, The Jerk doesn't count that way.
Three Amigos. There are some parody elements in that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I wouldn't. It's not a parody.
No, but
movie.
It almost has become a design for other movies. Like people have taken the Three Amigos and used that premise. Like A Bug's Life from Pixar, which I love,
Right.
is totally the Three Amigos.
Yeah.
I grew up, so we're just talking about Steve Martin comedy. All of Me was another movie that my sister
I forgot
and
about
I
that with Lily Tomlin.
loved that movie. Yes.
Yes.
Totally got it. We would Edwina back in bowl. These are things that we would just say to each other randomly all of the time. What a great performance. I guess if you think about it, it's a little sexist because Lily Tomlin is a funny lady, and you're not really using her for comedy
to
in this.
her to her finest strengths.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
you're using her in the mirror as a reflection.
Right.
But Steve Martin is definitely putting on a huge performance.
Yeah.
My Blue Heaven, was that parody?
My Blue Heaven. I don't think so.
You know what? Next time we'll just prepare. Next time we'll prepare.
Well,
We'll think about-
we decided parody 20 minutes before we started this.
That's true.
So I did not get as much chance to research as I would have liked.
I will say, though, I've thought about it for you and I having this discussion. So maybe I should have said something a year and a half ago when I thought, well, I should bring Tim in and talk about parody.
But
we can always revisit this. I
Yeah.
mean, comedy to me is such an important thing. And this podcast is really, in the end, for my kids. That's really the hope that at some point, and I said it just yesterday on the podcast. 10 years after I'm dead, and they're listening to this stuff, and they're remembering how I felt about these certain things. Comedy should be something that I'm talking about a lot more because it's such a huge part of my life with them.
Yes.
All the time. So
yeah, and it. I think of you as a very funny person.
thank you.
and I know that you
It
need
means
that.
a lot. I appreciate that. Even if you didn't mean it, I like it.
No,
Thank you.
I do mean it, and so yeah, it definitely, and I think that happens naturally. As I listen to the podcast, you talk about topics that aren't necessarily funny,
Yeah.
but the comedy happens.
I've always
in your conversations and in the interaction.
Thank you. I mean, I've always thought the hardest, and I think it's why I always avoided stand-up, and it's certainly one of the big regrets in my life. The idea of having to make comedy out of nothing, like plan it, write it down, create the joke, was always something that was not where I was
You
funny.
were looking for spontaneity.
Yeah, I was always a really good counterpuncher. So like I can hear things and I can respond that way.
Which is why you like and do well at improv.
I used to. It's been so long. I really maybe in my we were talking about this, feeling rusty from not performing so much. I haven't improvised. It feels like maybe 8 years, 9 years,
Really?
and
Oh,
so
okay.
I feel like I wonder how my brain would work under those circumstances. What I do know about improv, though, is I know that I don't need to be funny in order to make it interesting. That was one of the things that I learned from my time studying under Paul Sills and at the New Actors Workshop and all of that, is we would do improv scenes sometimes where we were our own cutoff, and we were always encouraged to not find not play any of the jokes and find the realism. And I understand how Viola Spolin puts together the idea of the who, what, and where, and those are the foundations, and that activities are things that you can communicate very, very well by doing. So you always find yourself in the by putting yourself in the immediate. So I know tricks of the trade,
Right.
to get it done. So I don't think I would feel like I was drowning, but I think I would not be satisfied with
With
my creativity.
You would want to be better.
Yes.
Which is,
Yeah.
But shouldn't we always want to be better?
We always want
Which
to be
is-
better. That's not true. Not everybody does, but yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. That's true. It's kind of sad.
We,
On that down note,
Yeah. Well, it's the misunderstanding of trying your best doesn't mean that you're great, that you have to be perfect or great. But like when you set the standard for trying your best is when you do your eventually best work is what I believe. And if you don't try your best, you're never going to set a high bar for yourself to kind of get
Right.
to. So like the pursuit of the high bar
Right.
to me is really what I'm
right.
trying to
Right.
say.
So
the pursuit of it is more important than the actual
So I did
achievement.
my best as an excuse that it was not very good. Right. I'm not good at this. I did my best.
Yeah, but I never, when someone says it like that, I never believe them. I'm like, you didn't try your best, so
Right.
that's bullshit. Like internally, when you know that you've given your best, you've given it everything, and you're in pursuit of that high bar and you don't reach
And
it,
you don't reach it.
you're
Yeah.
you can be okay
Right.
because you're still going to go after it again. But too many
Yes.
people say, I tried my best, I did my best. What do you want? My students sometimes say, what do you want me to walk different? I'm like, yeah, I want you to walk different. You're making a movie.
Yeah.
Like you're running away from, or you're scared of this thing. Do I want you to walk different than you would walk normally? Yeah, I do. I said the line. Yeah, but you just said the words.
Said the words with no meaning, no understanding of what was going on around you, not listening to anybody.
That's a key to improv too, is listening. Like I'm not afraid to get out there and listen and let the ideas come. So I don't think I would be afraid, but I wonder where because you do improv with people who think that they have to be quick and witty, and so that's not much fun for me.
It's not fun to watch.
No, it can be very
It
uncomfortable.
can be very painful.
Yeah, because there are
Someone's-
people who are great at that, but it's a very few. There's not a lot of people.
Pursuing the. Robin Williams was great at that,
Yep.
and people try to do him,
Yep.
and it's not funny.
Nope.
Yeah. So I unfortunately I unfortunately have had exposure to a lot of not good improv.
And that's why local theaters don't want to do it, because it's a lot of not good improv.
Where people are pursuing the funny, right, as opposed to the real. They're not finding the humor in
The
the
book,
real.
The Truth in Comedy, people read it, talks about people who sacrifice. You can't trust somebody who's going to sacrifice your scene for a joke. It's always got to be about the scene. Also, like, the truth between people is always funnier than any witty thing that you could come up with.
Yes.
For most people, like, you know, you have Amy Poehler's and you have your Ike Barinholtz, and
right.
You have Brendan, what's his name from Dropout. I mean, these people are very, very, very quick and witty and funny, and they can do that. And the formats they put themselves in, it can lead to that. But most people, especially amateurs, when they try to do the work like that, it doesn't.
Well,
it's just not. They could find success if they learned how to do it the other way.
Right. So, but that gets back to where we started with parody. In parody, for parody's sake, as opposed to parody of something that you really love.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
so let's make this relationship funny, or let's make this relationship real, and it'll be funnier,
right? Because
it's real, and because we see ourselves reflected in your relationship as an audience member.
Yeah.
And that's where really real belly laughs come from, as opposed to the
just like a laugh. You know,
yeah.
You get the laugh, or you can get the hearty laugh. Tim, you tied it up perfectly. I don't think I should say anything else after that.
Oh.
Perfectly tied up.
Thank you.
The parody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, people. Bye.
Bye.
So, no joke. That was our episode on parody. I hope you enjoyed it. I always enjoy having a good conversation with Tim. It just feels very, very familiar. A little bit like home. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed listening to the Last Will podcast. If you do, please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, then review it again, and then subscribe. All of those things are very, very helpful to us, and we really appreciate it. If you want to reach us, you can get us at The Last Will Podcast on Instagram, or you can even email me, Matt Young. That's Matt with one T, because that's the way my parents did it. Matt with one T at thelastwillpodcast.com. Until next time, onward, forward,